Hello everyone, welcome to DevOps Summit 2020. My name is Steve. Today I'm going to share some experience of automation testing in microservices. Okay, let's start. I work with Capital Carbon Consulting as a DevOps coach, and I'm the course owner of Continuous Product-Oriented Practice. If you like today's presentation, and if you think today's presentation is very useful, or you are interested in the automation testing and the DevOps, send a message to Capital Carbon Consulting, or you can send an email to me. Before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. I work in the IT industry for more than 20 years. In the first 10 years, I focus in the technical part. And then I started my entrepreneur's journey. That lasted for 5 years. My company grew from 5 employees to 1,600 employees in only 4 years. It's a big change. After that, I joined ThoughtWorks as a team coach. Basically, I think myself as a Java developer with the DevOps and Agile coaching skills. Today, we have 4 topics. The first one, we will talk about the monolithic and the microservices. And I will show why microservices is a trend. Then the second topic, we are going to talk about what we did the automation testing in the monolithic system and how we do the automation test. And third, I will show some points of why we can't continue doing the same thing in the microservices ecosystem. In other words, what the problems we are facing in the microservices ecosystem. At the end, let's talk about the best practice of automation testing in microservices architecture. These are today's 4 topics. The first topic is what is a monolithic and microservices. Let me share my journey. About 12 years ago, my development team was building e-commerce system. I was a principal developer, and I call my architecture design an elegant design. One user interface, we developed it using HTML and jQuery. And we have one business module, very simple and easy. And we have the data interface, DI, and DI talk to database and transfer the data to business model. Okay, that is very beautiful, right? This beautiful structure only works at the first 2 years. When we had more product lines and we have more employees, our system become complicated. You can see in the middle, we have a UI with HTML and jQuery, but we have more business modules. I list 3 here, but in fact, we have more than 20 business modules. Because each of the module became complicated, so we introduced another layer, service layer. The business module talk to the service, and each of the service has its own data interface, and the data interface connect to the database. That is a simple Java MVC 3 layers architect. Looks not complicated, but think about if you have more than 20 of business modules, that is a nightmare to development team. It was hard to maintain and develop such a monolithic system. At the end of the second year, when I reviewed the architecture with the team, I realized that the whole system was going to become a big ball of mud, like you can see at the right. I call this kind of design is a big ball of mud design. The whole team is hard to control the relationship between the business modules and the service to another service. From 2015, many companies I consulted has the same problem. I saw lots of big ball of mud design in the past 5 years, and no one want to work on them. there is still a good news to the employees who they are in the mud. The company will not fire them. The company need them to working in the mud, but they are not happy. Okay, so in this page, let's see how microservices save the architecture. There are two major changes. You can see the picture in the middle. If we can't avoid the complexity, we can package the complexity into a box, and we hide the complexity in the box. Box is microservice. And each of the microservice, they talk by RESTful API. And the relationship between the microservices is just like the relationship between your laptop and your monitor. They connected by an HDMI cable, so they don't need to know the complexity inside of each other, right? So that is the beautiful of microservices. Until then, the problem seems fixed, but I say half of the problems are fixed because we just fix the problem inside. If we have a lot of microservices, the relationship between the microservices become a new problem. In this page, I will show why microservices is a trend. Although only half of the problems are fixed, microservices is still a good way for the software architecture. That's the reason Netflix, Google, Amazon, and a lot of companies successfully switched from monolithic to microservices. There are three significant benefits from microservice. The first one, microservices are easy to deploy. And the second one, each element can scale independently. That means each microservices can have multiple instances. The third one is about the management part. The development team can work independently. These three big benefits makes a lot of companies move from monolithic to microservice. The next part, we'll talk about how we did the automation testing in monolithic. If your organization is running a monolithic system, it's okay. But if you don't have automation testing, that is a problem. Developing the automation testing is the first step you should approach. So don't try microservices before you have the automation testing. And we'll talk about it in the next part. Okay, let's back to part 2, automation testing in monolithic. We call that triangle is the monolithic testing triangle. At the bottom is a unit test. Developers develop the unit test. Usually they will use JUnit if they are a Java developer, and they use TDD, test-driven development, as a methodology. And above the unit test is an API test. You can call it an integration testing. Usually your tester or your QA will develop the API test. They use Cucumber as a framework, and they use BDD as the methodology, which BDD refers to behavior-driven development. And at the top of the pyramid is the end-to-end testing. And your tester develop this E2E testing as well. They will use Selenium. Selenium is a very good UI testing tool and the framework. Okay, so basically in the traditional testing, we use this pyramid as our testing model. All the testing code will be implemented, right? And here is where the testing will happen. There are two circles here. The first circle is the CI pipeline, and the second circle is the CD pipeline. Unit test will happen here. Every time when a developer submits his code, the CI pipeline will build the whole system. and then run the unit test one by one. And if all the tests pass, we'll go to the next step. Okay, the next step, including the integration test. Those kind of code are by the testers. Okay, so they will use BDD as a methodology and prepare the code. And after the integration test passed, we'll go to the CD pipeline. Some of the company will run the end-to-end testing in the staging environment, but some of the company will run the E2E test in their user acceptance testing environment. So this picture doesn't have the UAT environment. The UAT environment should be here. So between the CI pipeline and the CD pipeline. Okay, in this picture, we will know what the three traditional automation testing happens: unit test, integration test, and the E2E test. Okay. For many years, automation testing were running very well in the monolithic system and even some small-scale microservices. But for the large-scale microservice system, the testing pyramid won't work because there are problems need to fix. Okay, let's see what kind of problems. Oh, this picture. So the large-scale microservices system, I mean microservice system like this. So both of the Amazon and Netflix, they have more than 500 microservices. And each microservices might have 10 to 100 or even 1,000 instances running in their production. So that is a big, complicated system. Okay, let's see what is the problems in the microservice automation testing if we use the traditional testing triangle. Basically, if you have more than 20 microservices, you will feel this triangle won't work. Two problems. One problem is about the mock. Here, too many services need to mock, and the integration tests often fail. What is mock? Suppose you have microservice A, and microservice A will get data from microservice B, C, D. Okay? When you are developing microservice A, microservice B, C, D are developing at the same time. So you can't test before B, C, D are finished. So how we handle this kind of problem? We ask the team of BCD build a mock. So they built a mock BCD and published to A, so A can test. Okay, so that is the reason of mock. So usually the team which developed the microservice take the responsibility to build the mock. But sometimes they will forget. They will forget to update the mock. We can understand that. Maintaining the mock are the kinds of the extra work for the team. If the real microservices and the mock are different, it will cause the integration test to fail. Okay? So that is one problem. Another problem at E2E testing at the top of the pyramid. Because microservice talk to another microservice by the RESTful API, the traditional debugging method cannot trace the error easily. If something wrong with the E2E test, usually the development team will take a long time to locate the bug. That's often a time-consuming job. Okay, and how we fix the problems, how we make another module in the microservices automation testing. Let me use an example of my team. One of my team helped a client to develop their platform for 2 years. And we worked together with the client from monolithic to microservices. At the beginning, they only have 3 microservices. And after 2 years, they have 15 microservices. Test module evolved. Okay, when the architecture switched to microservices, the testing job will become tough. To handle the complexity of the microservices, we extract the API testing layer into 3 layers, which here. So in the traditional triangle, we only have the unit test, API test, and E2E. Now API test changed to 3 kind of test. Here at the middle of the slide, there is a line here. Everything below the line is in microservice, and everything above the line is cross microservices. Inside the microservice, the team will develop the integration test that will make sure all the functions of the microservice will work. And also they will do the component test if multiple microservices are handled by the same team. The cross microservices, we introduce a new layer, which is a contract test. We introduce the contract test to fix the inconsistency of the real microservices and the mock. Every microservices will sign a contract with a third-party platform about the input and output, which basically is the format of JSON. And the third-party platform will test whether the microservice follows the contract or not. By this way, we make the third-party platform a centralized platform. By a centralized platform, there will be not too much communication between the microservices. That will make the whole structure simple. A well-known third-party platform about the contract testing is Swagger. Okay, we can see by changing the testing pyramid from 3 layers to 5 layers, one problem is fixed. Problem is too many service needs mock, and we use contract test layer to solve that. And the integration test fail. We do a lot of tests in the component test and the integration test. Okay, so that one problem fix. Another problem, the second problem, hard to locate the bug after E2E test fail. Our team took a long time to solve that. Before we try to find the solution of the problems, we need to understand where is the problems, right? So first, the team figure out the reason. We have test coverage policy. Each team spend much time on the unit test here, and not many time on the contract test and the end-to-end test. By doing that, we will get the perfect test coverage. And even only have one test case, a simple code in E2E, that test will cover a lot of functions in the unit test. That's because the higher the layer, the more coverage it will get automatically. And after we find the reason, we change the planning of the testing effort. So in the past, developers take a lot of time doing the unit test, and the testers spend a lot of time doing E2E test. We change the triangle into the inverted diamond. Let's see where the team effort is spent. Okay, the team spends time on the integration test and the component test. So in the past, developers spend a lot of time on the unit test, and now the team spend their time in integration and component. The tester and the developer, they all spend time on the contract test. And for the unit test part, we can take it in an unimportant position. After the satisfying test in the integration test, component test, and the contract test, E2E test is not necessary. So we can see that we change the E2E test to the smoke test. That's my team's journey of automation testing and how the test module changed in the past 2 years. Okay, and my team and I learned a lot of lessons and also got experience. Some of them I list here. Prerequisites. If you want to migrate your monolithic to microservices, you need to have the DevOps practice. okay? And the second thing, at least you need to have the CI/CD pipeline. And the third, you need to have the automation testing in your original monolithic structure. If you don't have automation testing in the original system, don't try to migrate. Okay, and the next thing, you need to plan and architect your microservices well. So microservices should be deployed independently and can be delivered independently. Okay, and the last thing, you need to have the infrastructures and the frameworks which support the production QA. Because of the complexity of the microservices, we do a lot of online testing, especially the smoke test and some of the E2E tests in the production. Okay, so you need to have the infrastructure to support them. If some of the tests fail, the infrastructure will self-healing, will fix it itself. Okay, after you have those prerequisites, I provide some of the policies. Okay, so first policy is business value first. A lot of managers talk to me the first time I met them. They told me they need strong technical support to their automation testing. But in fact, that is wrong. The first thing, they need to identify the business value. They need to identify which microservices is most important to them, which microservice they need 5.9 availability, and which microservices they need to run 100 instances in the production. Okay, so that's all the business value behind. The next policy is define the quality requirement based on each microservice. The next thing is identify the bottleneck in the CI/CD pipeline. Identify the bottleneck in the CI/CD pipeline, I mean in your original CD pipeline, in your monolithic CI/CD pipeline. And then after you migrate some of the monolithic into the microservices, try to find the bottleneck in your microservices CI/CD pipeline, and then try to update to implement the automation testing into the pipeline. Okay, and the last policy is always follow the evolutionary testing strategy. The first step, set a clear goal, and then measure it, and then improve it. I saw a lot of team, they don't have goal. They just want automation testing for no reason. Okay, and I also have some partner, they don't measure. They have the goal, and they think they are doing very well, but they don't have a way to measure, so they can't improve. Okay, set goal, measure, and improve are the 3 steps. I like to use this picture for the end of the presentation. Although microservices are the trends, we should not implement microservices for the sake of microservices. If your monolithic system works very well, and you have the automation testing running very well in the monolithic system, and everything is good, that means you are not such tall to use the microservices. So just keep improving your automation testing. Okay, thank you everyone. If you are interested in the DevOps automation, you can connect. Okay, and also I want to mention tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m., I will have a workshop about the lead time, and we will have some fun during the workshop. So if you have time, you can join. Thank you. Bye.